Hey, what's going on? So I'm just going to quickly go over how to use the tool Process Monitor, which is a tool in the Windows SysInternals suite, and it is used primarily to look at the system calls that a process is making while that process is running. So the example that we're going to go through, just for kind of clarity, is running a couple commands in the command prompt and kind of tracing what those commands are doing in terms of the system calls and things like that they're making. So it's kind of like a reverse engineering tool, which sort of helps you understand the underlying things that are kind of happening underneath the surface when a program is running. So, anyways, here I have a command prompt, which is going to be used in our illustration. Also, I'm going to pull up Process Monitor, which is called Procmon for short. As far as downloading Procmon, you can pretty much just Google Microsoft SysInternals suite, or you might be able to just get Procmon as like an individual download. I'm not going to go through that right now, but I'm sure you can figure that out. So anyways, opening up Procmon, it's going to ask about this filter right here. So typically the way that this would work is you would go through and select one of these, things you want to filter on, because by default, Procmon is going to capture all of the activity that's happening with all of the running processes on your system, which is obviously way too much information to be useful. So kind of the standard way you would use this is you would pick maybe process name and say command.exe, and then you would say include, as in if the process name is command.exe, include that in the capture, and then you would add that. Now you can see that I actually had done this earlier, so this is already this filter is actually already applied. So I'm just going to make sure that that's checked. And for now, I'm going to uncheck. Actually, I'll just remove this netsh so that we can talk about that in a second. So anyways, let's say that we're just starting out with command.exe, and we just kind of wanted to see what command.exe is doing. So pull that over right here. Here's my command.exe window. So I'm just going ahead and, first of all, before I do anything, I should always make sure that this file capture events is checked. So this is actually going to, make sure that the capture is active. If I uncheck that, then nothing's going to be getting captured. So make sure that's checked. And then if you need to clear the display, you can just do that. Clear display, Control X. So I'm going to go ahead and just run a basic command for starters. That CLS command looks like it actually didn't really do anything in terms of generating system calls or anything like that. So that's not very interesting. So just for starters, let's say we wanted to just do a basic command like a directory listening, which in Windows command prompt you use the dir command. So I'm just going to run that, dir. So you can see here in Process Monitor, there were a number of system calls that were made by command.exe. Windows is doing these kind of create file, close file, create file operations. And with the file, you kind of have to understand, I guess, that the file that this is referring to is not necessarily like a text file or a Word document or anything like that. It's just sort of a file descriptor, which can refer to basically anything, I think, that has an inode on the file system. So you'll see that these kind of create file, close file, read file will be all over in terms of things that will show up as system calls in Process Monitor. So you kind of have to be judicious with what we're looking at. You don't have to necessarily get down into the weeds on every single file that you see here. Just kind of try to pick out what the important ones are. It's sort of an art rather than a science as far as that goes. So anyways, so that dir command, not super duper interesting. However, let's say that we have a netsh command that will tell us, or that will change the one of the DNS servers that is being used by this machine, and we want to know what's happening when we run that command. So I actually happen to have that command right here. Netsh interface set DNS name equals Ethernet, which is the name of my primary network interface. Source static address 1.1.1.1, which is the Cloudflare DNS server. So that is a legitimate DNS server. So I'm going to go ahead and run that command. And I'll minimize that. As you can see, the time where I ran that command right here, it's a pretty significant amount of activity from command.exe. So again, remember that this is all system calls coming from command.exe. But you can also see within these system calls that command.exe was interacting with this new process. There we go. This is the important line. It actually go ahead and forks off this netsh.exe process via this process create system call right here. So it even happens to tell us that it gave us a PID of 16552, and there's the command line that invoked it, which is of course the command that we ran. So seeing this, we might say, oh, okay, well, clearly this netsh process is significant. Let me actually go ahead and monitor what that netsh process is doing as well. So in that case, we can go ahead and modify our filter. So we're going to add a new filter for process name. And I'm just going to make that netsh.exe, make sure we're including, and then add and apply. All right. So now process monitor is listening, not just for command.exe, but also for netsh.exe. I'm going to go ahead and clear the display, and I'm going to run that command one more time. And it actually looks like my syntax on this was not correct or something. This following command was not found. Interface set DNS name Ethernet source static address 1.1.1.1. All right, well that's interesting. So apparently I do have the syntax wrong on that command. Nonetheless, I think the general point remains that this is one way that you can view events. Let me turn off the capture real quick so I don't get anything extra. You can view events that are coming in and out of the processes as they're running. So if you go down here, this is down near the bottom. This is one thing that I noticed earlier. So that netsh is running these reg close keys on this current control set services TCP/IP parameters interfaces. And that has, I think, something to do with the DNS in this case. Probably the reason why we don't actually see anything changing, maybe because I actually did not have the right syntax on the command. Nonetheless, just one more thing I'll show real quick is that you can actually use, if you right-click, as I just did on this line, you can actually just kind of modify the filter inline. So you can say like include, right? And that will actually just change your filter to only show things that have this path, HKLM, system current control set, services, TCP, blah, blah, blah. So in that case, if you like, oh, this registry key is particularly important, then you can just kind of quickly filter to that. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that back off, reapply, so we see everything. But yeah, that's about all I was going to show on that. Just kind of a quick overview of how to use the tool. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Yeah, that's all I got for now.